When I was in my late 20s, I really thought I'd have more things figured out by the time I turned 30. Instead, I felt stuck, like somehow I had missed my chance. By now I'm 35 and I do have a few things that I have figured out by now, and in this video I want to share the specific things that helped me move forward. So if you're in your late 20s or early 30s and you feel stuck or somewhat left behind, this video is for you. And if you're not stuck yet you watch this video but have experienced this before, make sure to share what helped you in the comments below. In my 20s, my biggest aim was to do everything the right way and everything in a correct way so that I wouldn't hold it up against me. But what did happen is that by doing that, I almost ended up not having the life I ultimately wanted to have, and I think that would have really then led to a life that I would have essentially resented. The milestones that I personally had in mind when I was in my 20s that I should have reached by the age of 30 were mostly aligned in terms of my work. I thought I would be far ahead in my career, I would earn X amount of money, I'd have the biggest flat. So these types of stereotypical things, traveled the world maybe. Though I have to say most of my milestones were very much career and mostly career oriented, for better or worse. And I was the type of person who wanted to tick all the boxes and who wanted to do everything according to some sort of rules that I made up in my own head, but that were partially probably also influenced by some, I don't know, women's magazines that I read when I was 16. So thank you Cosmopolitan, and I can't even remember the other names. So I wanted to do everything right. But what I did realize by the end of my 20s, and by the end of my 20s I mean 26 at that point, is that I was heading towards a life full of regret. Because deep down I knew that I was in a relationship that I didn't want to be in anymore because didn't work out. I also knew that I had actually chosen a career for myself that, even though I always knew that this is plan B, this isn't what I wanted to do, and what I had actually wanted to do is to go to dental school, and I started to really resent myself for not having taken the plunge and actually done it. And the older I got, older quote unquote, the more I started to resent myself for playing it safe and not taking risks. And that leads me to one of my main points in this video. Did you see the fly flying by? Because I did, and it's really effing me off. What actually mattered more in the end, rather than ticking off the boxes, is to ensure that I'm living a life that would not ensure that I would end up hating it and that it would be full of regrets. And the fear of having a life lived full of regrets actually enabled me to get to a turning point in my life where I decided to quit my job and go back to university at age 27, even though that was, in my life and in my point of view, the riskiest and most audacious thing I have done to this day. And it might seem like nothing to you, but for me it was everything, because I felt like by doing that I'm entirely throwing my life away, and that every single decision and every single thing I have done up until this point was being thrown away by me and completely disregarded. And so that was an awful feeling, but it really helped me to move forward. And it also wasn't easy, because by that it was evident that I had to disregard all kinds of timelines that need to be ticked off at a certain moment in life. Because while I was going back to university and being in the first semester, of course some of my friends were married and had kids and bought houses, but the more I went onto this journey, the more I also realized that things aren't set in stone, and the more I move, the more my friends' lives move as well. And what actually happened is that the more we all moved along in our lives, the more I figured out and the more I could see that life does not move in a linear fashion. It has turning points and there's a lot of unpredictability in it. And just because you're over there doing one thing and your friends are over there doing some other thing, it does not mean that you're behind in life or that you're missing the train or whatever you want to call this moment in your life. Because by the time I graduated from my second degree, my friends started going back to university as well, because also they have seen that it had worked out for me and they have seen how happy I was having made that choice. I don't know why I'm doing this weird hand thing, but I'm just gonna keep doing it because it creates motion. So if you feel stuck or behind in your late 20s, I've got some practical advice that maybe helps you moving forward. First of all, I would question this whole notion of having to have it all figured out, because what does that ultimately mean? You will never have everything figured out, and I doubt that you'll ever fully know yourself. And having these goals towards the end of your 20s or early 30s is, I think, simply not possible. And even if it was, how boring would that be? Imagine you had it all figured out, you have reached all your milestones, you completely know who you are, and then what? Do you think Earth is going to stop turning at this point and you'll live this life for eternity? I don't think so. I think with a lot of things, and I've discovered that by going through, the ordeal of going to dental school, is that what really helps is questioning your own thoughts and also purposely reframing some of these thoughts that you have in order to ensure that actually you can lead a life full of curiosity and full of things to still discover. What I think is also helpful is to not think in terms of milestones, but to actually think in terms of mind statuses that you want to accomplish. And by that I mean how you react to change, how you lead conversations, how you react to certain situations, how to ensure that you have a life full of learning opportunities. That, in my point of view, is far more interesting than any other milestones you could think of. I think it is also important to question the timeline and not the progress, because ultimately, just because something isn't happening in your life right now, it doesn't mean that it is never going to happen. And also, in general, stop this comparison game, because just because your friend is doing XYZ, it doesn't mean he or she is always going to do that. And as I said, it also doesn't mean that it's never going to happen to you. Also, in general, I would encourage you to question these timelines and what they mean to you, because ultimately, something done only by a certain age only matters to the person that is thinking about them. Do you know what I mean? Because imagine I had gotten married at age 28, then that's just simply a piece of information. It doesn't hold any merit, and it also doesn't make me a better person or worse person at this point. And oh my god, 28 is quite a long time ago at this point, but it wouldn't change my present moment, or it wouldn't change the person I am today, or maybe it would, but in a way, what does it matter when somebody has achieved something at what age, I can also say from experience, and by having been a few rounds around the sun at this point, feeling stuck and feeling behind in life is kind of an integral part of life also. It is perfectly normal that there's always going to be moments in life where you're wondering if you're on the right path, if you're doing the right thing, if everything's according to God knows what kind of plan. I just think that this whole notion of starting to feel left behind and stuck already by the end of your 20s is nothing to really feel, because you're so young at this point, even though it doesn't feel that way, because oh my god, you're approaching 30 and 30 feels like one step into retirement, but that's not true. I'm 35 now, and I can tell you that life basically started when I turned 30, because so much of the BS of being in your 20s is just falling away, and it's just so much better. It's like I wouldn't give anything to be back at my 20s, not even my face or anything, because everything's so much better in your 30s, believe me. No, I almost lost my point. So what I'm trying to say is there's still so much to discover. There's so many things that you can do. And I mean, even small things, even though it sounds completely pathetic and you're here maybe trying to really hear something really revolutionizing, but sometimes it honestly is as simple as going to the library and choosing a book that you normally never read, or finding a new cafe that you go to for the first time in your city, booking a solo trip, meeting a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, picking up the phone, calling somebody that you haven't talked to in years. I think most of the time when we feel stuck, it often stems from being bored of our everyday routines, and it is kind of a call to change and to do something different. And honestly, there's so much you can do. I don't know, pick up a book, try to learn Finnish. Just an idea. Oh my god, this table is so wonky. It's IKEA. Everybody expects IKEA to be wonky. Another thing that I like to do when I'm feeling stuck is to write what if prompts into my journal. I know, journal, don't click away just yet, but it's really a fun exercise to do. You grab a pen, you grab your journal, yes, I said journal, and you write down all the what ifs that come to your mind. Like, for example, what if I move to Japan next year? What if I learned how to make my own furniture? Like, these types of things, don't filter them, but sometimes you find really good gems in them, and then see what gets you excited and see if there's something that you can actually do. Okay, that's gonna be it for now. I hope you got something out of this video. If you're in your 30s yourself and you're watching this, maybe there's some gems of wisdom you could share with the rest of us. And I hope to see you in my next video. And don't feel stuck and behind in life, because the sun is shining, summer is coming back. I made this video, and don't forget to floss. All right, see you. Bye.